Okay, so this lecture is a bit different now. This is our first data analysis lecture. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to mirror your screen just like mine. I have one window with ChatGPT Data Analyst open, and I have another window with GMMS 6073, our project folder. And I also have a copy of the PFR 2020 injuries data. So this is a concussions data set. So before we begin, we can just open the console, type in get WD, enter, and it shows that my working directory is set in my correct project folder, meaning we'll be able to load these data pretty easily. So the first thing you want to do is you want to save your code, and there's a special way to save it. So we click save. We're going to save it as 0_data_setting. Okay, .r. That's always our first code is data setting, and then here we should see it pop up. Okay, so the first thing you want to make sure is it's called data setting. You want to check your folder name here, like that you're in the R project. You want to make sure you have one piece of code called data setting. Here, you want to make sure it's an R script. So you can check to make sure it's an R script by just clicking this button here and hitting R script. Okay, so that's the first part. So I'll pause for a moment. If your screen looks like mine, continue. If it doesn't, rewatch the video and the past videos on how to get to this point. Okay, so now we're here. The first step, what we want to do, we want to read in our data. So we want to load our .csv data. And since we're already in the folder, we can simply say dat assign, and we can use the read.csv command, and we can simply say double quotation mark PFR underscore 2020 underscore injuries .csv, close quotation mark, close bracket. And when I press Command Enter and the cursor's on this line, it should read in. Now, how do we know it read in? Because we see that the chevron here has been read, and there's a new chevron down below. And we also see here, we see that our data file's been read in. Let me just move myself to the bottom right, hopefully. And we see here we have 38,112 observations of 39 variables. Okay. So the first thing you may want to do is save. And the next thing you may want to do is you can type in view and then dat. And view gives us like a traditional tabular view. Let me just delete. And we can just take a look at the data. So what are we looking at? We're looking at the columns here, and we're looking at the rows here. And right away we see repeated names. So we see Amir Abdullah from the Minnesota Vikings, repeated. So we know already we're getting clues. This is repeated measures. We see different points in time. So week 10, week 6, we see different data. So this is repeated measures. It looks like in weeks of interval. We scroll to the right, we can see just a bunch of different data. Okay. A nice mix of different types of data. Okay. So the view command is actually not, I'll say it again, the view command is not very helpful because again, you can get into these massive data sets, hard to see. So we can type in head dat. We take a look. Head shows the first 5 rows. So here's the first 5 rows. And then the other thing we can do is we can go end row, which is, so head is the first 5 rows. End row is the number of rows. We can go end row dat, 38,182. And then also we can do call names that, which is going to give us the column names and their index number. So column 1 is X, column 2, column 3, and so on. And you can just see the labels. So some first steps in data analysis. There's so much to do now, but one of the first steps is we have to make sure our columns are named correctly. So the first thing we do is we use a tall or command. Now, I've intentionally shown you how to kind of, you have to have RStudio open and data analyst open. So you can tell data analyst in R, I need to convert all call names to lowercase. Okay, so we're gonna just to show you how you can use ChatGPT for this. So it's giving us a command tall call names df. So we check to make sure it's correct. This is correct. We can just copy the code, paste it in, and we can leave that or we can delete that. But ours is not called df, it's called dat. So we need to change that little piece. So what is it saying? It's saying make all the call names of dat in a lowercase and assign it back to the original. So when we run this line, and then when we run call names again, we see everything's in lowercase. Much easier to write functions for when everything is lowercase. Okay, so these first couple of rows, now in R, when you type 4 hashtags, it gives you this little 4 hashtags. Space and another 4 hashtags. It lets you get these little headers right here that you can scroll with. So I'll use those. And now we'll just look at basic summary commands in R. So some basic summary commands, we can do summary and see the output. What summary lets us do is it lets us take a look at what kind of data we have, the missing data, the data types. So X is some sort of ID number, name abbreviation. We see the class is character, okay, meaning it's a string value. Okay, injury type character as well. We'll discuss what to do with this type of data. So we can see this data needs some pre-processing to be usable. We see season is numeric, so everything, season is minimum first quartile, median, mean, third quartile. It's all the 2020 season. So we only have 1 year of data. And then there's week. So we see week is a number from minimum of 1 to maximum 21. There's 515 NA values, meaning we have some missing data for week. Again, more character variables. We'll take a look at those in detail. More character variables, total snaps, offensive snaps. So here we see some numerical variables, a rate variable. So this is a rate between 0 and 1. Some more position, first name, last name, status, jersey number, birth date, weight, height. So we really have a nice set of indicators to do some analysis with in this data set. It's pretty decent. So I'll continue now just with some more pragmatics based on what I'm seeing here. But I want you to take a second to reflect on what kind of analysis you might do on this data set and what you would do first in this data set based on what you're seeing so far. So take the time to just respond in the Dropbox, and then I'll pick up with this data set in the next video.